He once ruled Pakistan, but now finds himself a prisoner in his own home. Pervez Musharraf's gamble to make a political comeback after living in exile for years has gone spectacularly wrong. Was it hubris, or is this the revenge of the judges? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mike Hanna. Pervez Musharraf returned to Pakistan last month to compete in elections to, in his words, save Pakistan. But he's been disqualified from participating. There's been no hero's welcome, no mass show of support, quite the opposite. He's been humbled time and time again, and now he's hit a new low. Police arrested him during the night, took him before a magistrate who ordered that he be placed in custody for 2 days. He was taken back to his home in Islamabad and was essentially put under house arrest. Musharraf is accused of violating the constitution by placing dozens of judges and lawyers under house arrest during his 2007 confrontation with the judiciary. He's also been accused of treason for suspending the constitution and imposing emergency rule. And he faces other legal challenges, being accused of failing to provide adequate security for Benazir Bhutto, Pakistan's former Prime Minister, who was assassinated in 2007. So with all this hanging over his head, why on earth would he return? We'll get to that in a moment. But first, here's Kamal Haider's report from outside Musharraf's farmhouse in Islamabad.
There have been dramatic developments here in Pakistan and coming very close to the general elections due to be held on the 11th of May. Now, the consequences of what is happening in Pakistan arising from the judicial process or the cases against the former military ruler are something that everybody is watching with keen interest. This is the first time in the history of Pakistan that a military ruler or a former military ruler has been brought to the court to face serious charges. Right now, the charges against the former military ruler stem from his act to put over 60 judges under detention and proclamation of emergency rule here in Pakistan. However, there are more serious charges. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The former military ruler also has to answer for what happened in 2007 in the Red Mosque. He also has to answer for what happened to the Baluch leader Nawab Bukti, and he is also wanted in the conspiracy to assassinate Benazir Bhutto. Serious charges indeed. And some of the charges could even carry a treason sentence. So the big question mark, how is it all happening so close to an election which is considered to be crucial in the country's history? There's always a threat of violence because of the threat from the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and now this other twist, which is the former ruler of Pakistan's case. Kamal Haider for Inside Story, Islamabad.
It's a spectacular fall from grace for Pervez Musharraf, a man who's experienced the highs and lows of life in power. He was made army chief by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in 1998, but the two men fell out. Musharraf seized power the following year, a day after Sharif sacked him. Musharraf took the presidency and kept his position as army chief. He was lauded by some for bringing stability, but support for Musharraf began to wane after he agreed to endorse what George W. Bush called the war on terror after the September 11th attacks on the United States. By 2007, Musharraf's relationship with the judiciary collapsed. He imposed a state of emergency and sacked or imprisoned dozens of judges and lawyers, including the Chief Justice, Iftikhar Muhammad Chowdhury. And faced with threats of impeachment, he resigned as president shortly before the 2008 elections. He was succeeded by Benazir Bhutto's widower, Asif Ali Zardari, who, along with Musharraf's old rival, Nawaz Sharif, continued to press for his prosecution. Well, to discuss all of this, let's bring in our guests. Joining us from Karachi, Zahid Ibrahim, lawyer and advocate of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And from Islamabad, Makhdoom Baba, president and editor-in-chief of the English publication The Daily Mail, Pakistan. And also from Islamabad, Talat Masood, former military general of the Pakistani Army. Thank you all for joining us. Let's begin with Zahid Ibrahim. You were one of the lawyers who was arrested without a warrant on Musharraf's orders. What's your immediate reaction to what's happening now?
I think Musharraf, I would have rather seen him contest elections and get defeated before the people of Pakistan. Because right now these cases are really tip of the iceberg for him. And I think he really misjudged the mood in the country and in the power centers, in the media, in the judiciary.
Well, Maktoum Baba, your opinion on that? Did Pervez Musharraf misjudge the mood of the country?
I don't think that he exactly misjudged the mood of the country, but I think he made some overestimation about his popularity, and that estimation was based upon the feedback that was given to him by the members of his party who are no more seen with him after his arrival. But I think he has always been saying, when Madam Benazir and Mr. Nawaz Sharif are out of country, he is always asking them to come back and face the cases, and he has himself asking that I will go back to Pakistan and will face the cases against me. I don't think he should have come for a political reason, but it is good that he has returned to face the cases against him.
Well, Talat Masood, you served with Pervez Musharraf. Let's get straight to the point. Is his return due to hubris, what some would call arrogance, do you think?
Well, firstly, I didn't serve, but I have been watching him and I knew him very well. He was, in fact, had joined the army much later than I did. But I think he was living in a world of make-believe, and you are very right that he was power drunk, and he still has not really been in touch with reality in Pakistan. He has a very poor following in Pakistan, and at the moment I think the people in Pakistan are interested in the political process. They want new faces, they want the political parties to get strengthened, and I think he did not get this feedback from those people who were his supporters, if there were many. There weren't many, in fact. So I think he will feel he is now facing the brunt. And at the same time, I think the military also advised him not to come, because they knew that it would be a source of embarrassment for them. And at the same time, he is under very severe security threat, because there are so many groups which are after him. So protecting him is also the state responsibility, which of course the state is already overburdened by trying to provide security to so many politicians, and that adds to Pakistan's worry. And then furthermore, I would say that the Pakistan military would like to have kept away from this present situation, because they would like to be seen as though they are not interfering in the political process. They would like democracy to be strengthened, but at the same time they would not like a former chief to be humiliated and humbled in a way that would also affect the institution. Although I think I'm of the view that the process of democracy in Pakistan is getting strengthened, because no one in Pakistan today seems to be above the law.
Well, I want to pick up on that issue of the military in a little while, but first I want to look at the judicial aspect. Musharraf is now to some extent in the hands of some of his old enemies in the judiciary. The Supreme Court's current Chief Justice, Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhry, is the man Musharraf fired and placed under house arrest in the beginning of 2007, fired on 2 occasions. The move sparked mass protests by Pakistani judges and lawyers across the country. Later in 2007, Musharraf declared a state of emergency that saw troops storm the Supreme Court and arrest a number of top judges. The mass protests that followed played a big part in Musharraf's downfall. Well, the question is, are we partly now looking at revenge playing a part in this judicial action against Musharraf? Maktoum Baba, your view?
Well, I think, frankly speaking, Mr. Musharraf does not have many friends in the judiciary in Pakistan, but at the same time I believe that there should be no friend in the judiciary if you really need to seek justice, and there should be no enemy as well. Law has to be blind and it has to deliver blindly. And I believe that what is going on at the moment, former army chief, former president of Pakistan, appearing in every court of law where he is being summoned. That is the real democracy that Pakistan should be proud of. That is what he has been claiming, that I am trying to ensure a smooth democracy in Pakistan. That is what General Kayani, the current army chief, has been saying, that he wants to see a stronger democracy. Now, what else we need to have? This is a wonderful example of how democratically strong Pakistan has become over the period of a few years, and that is what has to be seen. As far as the Musharraf's relations with judiciary is concerned, I don't think there has to be good or bad relation. Justice has to be taken its course. Justice has to be blind, and I don't think that army will be interfering as long as justice is being done. And I'm at the same time, I'm also sure injustice, if at any level during the course of law, if there is any sort of injustice, then I don't think anybody would be silent, and with army being no exception in that.
Well, Talat Masood, you did touch on this issue of this proving the strength of democracy in Pakistan, the fact that you now have a civilian court taking on, for the first time, a previous army leader. What's your view on this? Is this democracy flourishing, do you really believe?
Well, I think it also shows that, previously the military had the monopoly of all power. And nobody dare question any military officer, especially the chief of the army, who was also the president for so many years. So this is a huge transformation that has taken place. And it also shows that new centers of power have developed in Pakistan, in which military is still there. But the fact is that the judiciary, the media, and also to some extent the parliament is extremely assertive now. So what we are seeing is that new centers of power, which are necessary for a normal democratic country, have emerged to an extent that they are prepared to challenge anyone who tries to defy the law of the land. So I think that is what we are seeing. Of course, these are messy times, these are turbulent times, and a transition is never smooth. But I think I am confident because the direction is right. You see, the problem was that in the past, everyone, because the democracy was failing, everyone was looking up to the military and thinking that they are the saviors. But after a long experience, they have realized that it doesn't work that way.
Well, in recent times, the courts in Pakistan have been accused of being somewhat selective in picking targets. They have focused on political leaders. President Asif Ali Zardari himself has come under investigation, as has the current Prime Minister, as well as the previous Prime Minister. Zahid Ibrahim, is there perhaps a sense that the courts are attempting to balance these accusations of acting against politicians and being very quiet about those with links to the military?
I think there is a strong recognition of that fact, and that is exactly the reason why the Supreme Court, even in last week, has taken up the case asking the Federation of Pakistan as to what steps it has taken and why it has not instituted a case under the High Treason Act against General Musharraf. Because you've got to understand, all these other cases, and even the case in which he's been arrested today, are a walk in the park. They're really not the main case. The main case against General Musharraf is of treason, of overthrowing the constitution in 2007. And the real difficulty for the general is that in 2007, after running his second coup, he actually said it in public that yes, he had acted unconstitutionally. So there you have a confession. And the Supreme Court in a 2009 case has already held that the actions of November 2007 amount to abrogation of the constitution. So, I mean, that is really a very serious case. The consequences of a trial for treason, I don't think General Musharraf really understood that fact. He did not realize that he did not have immunity, which every dictator in the past enjoyed.
Well, let me go on to Talat Masood on that particular point. And let's set the stress once and for all. It did appear he'd returned for political reasons, but the initial reactions to him have actually proved that he does not have much political support at all. Was he expected to play any major role in this upcoming election?
No, I don't think he was. No one expected in Pakistan that he'd be a big political player. In fact, we knew that he hardly had any following, and his political party was not in existence on the ground. It was only on paper and in his mind, and perhaps had a few supporters which were following him in Dubai and other places, and were probably feeding him with all the wrong information. So I don't think there was, as far as we were concerned, it was nothing unexpected. The only problem was that we were somewhat embarrassed by his overconfidence, because he has always been flying so high and not realizing that the situation on the ground is so very different. But of course, it is now so ironical. The very people that whom he threw or put them in jail, whether it is the politicians like Nawaz Sharif, or whether it were the judges like Chaudhry Sahib, all of them seem to be now in positions who have to decide his destiny. So this is also something of an irony as far as he's concerned.
Well, Makhdum Baba, I just want to put to you that this issue of the lack of his political viability.
Well, as I have been saying, that he had a political standing back in Pakistan until Imran Khan's party, PTI, emerged. Till then, a lot of youth was looking up to him. A lot of young students and youngsters from different walks of life were looking up to him until then. But I feel that he missed the bus when Imran Khan held the first ever major meeting of his party back in 2011. After that, I don't think there was any space for him to return to fight for election. But returning back, it was very much expected by majority of people. It was just for him to prove that he was innocent, that he was not guilty, and that is why he has returned. But I will again say that it is very surprising that all the cases against him that are with the local courts, nothing has been tried there. No trial has started in any court, in any case against him. But there has been a very comprehensive media trial already on for last many days, and these anchors and critics, and I mean, I can hardly see anybody from the media defending Musharraf or showing any soft corner for him. They have already declared him as a traitor, as a guilty in murder, as a guilty in habeas corpus cases.
At that point being taken, if I could just interrupt you there, because I do want to, as we've been discussing, Musharraf's decision to return to Pakistan surprised many people. He'd been living perfectly comfortably in Dubai and London since leaving in 2008. Well, let's just pause here and take a look at his life in London for a moment. Here's Lawrence Lee.
It's a long, long way from Islamabad, but this is the part of London that Pervez Musharraf called home during all the years of his self-imposed exile from Pakistan. That block of flats up there doesn't look too much, does it? Certainly not compared to the presidential palace that he lived in Islamabad, but those flats are worth anything up to £1 million, $1.5 million. Why? Well, because of the neighbourhood. This is Edgware Road, right in the heart of London. It's actually best known as an Arabic neighbourhood, lots of Lebanese restaurants and the like, very bustling, thriving sort of part of central London. And by all accounts, Pervez Musharraf really had quite a nice time when he was living here, had bridge evenings and musical evenings at home, played a lot of golf, drove around London in his armoured convoy, some of it at taxpayers' expense. But for an old man, that's really quite a nice life. It does make you wonder, given his current predicament, exactly why he chose to go back home again. For Inside Story, this is Lawrence Lee in London.
Well, there has been a precedent, of course, that we do know that Asif Ali Zardari returned to Pakistan after years in exile, years in imprisonment as well, and ended up as being president. But I want to pick up Zahid Ibrahim on something that was mentioned right at the beginning of the show by General Massoud. The fact that this is a terrible embarrassment for the military in Pakistan. Any potential trial of Pervez Musharraf could be a trial too of those military commanders who served under him during his periods as president and as chief of staff. How dangerous a situation is this?
I think there is a tension, there's a real tension on this, because you have to remember in 2008 General Musharraf only agreed to resign because he was promised, and this is according to the WikiLeaks cable, that the Pakistani Chief of Army Staff promised that he would be given immunity. That promise has not been held good, and that is the reason I agree that the military did not want General Musharraf returning to Pakistan. He is an embarrassment, and this is exactly why General Musharraf now faces the music.
Well, let's take the reality. The current head of the army, the chief of staff, General Asfaq Kiani, was appointed head of ISI, the intelligence services, by Pervez Musharraf. There's a close relationship. And I want to go to you here, Talat Masood, on this particular issue, the sensitivities that we are looking at of an army, as you stated, clearly wishing to stay out of any political nexus, but at the same time being subtly threatened with the kind of exposure that any trial of Pervez Musharraf could make terribly public.
Yeah, that's very true, and that is the very reason why they didn't want him to come. I mean, apart from his own personal reasons, Musharraf's reasons, they also wanted for the institutional interest also that he should not have come, because it will drag others also into it and bring the military into a spotlight, which may not necessarily be all the time good. So I think we are creating problems for the military. But, the problem is that if the chief of the army commits such an offense, and if that is proved in the court of law, then I'm afraid you cannot say that because others were also involved in it, the case should not be taken, and we should all the time take this into consideration, which means that if we go by that logic, every chief of the army could then engage in a coup and then get away with it, because he'll say that he was not just responsible, it was a collective decision. So I think this is where he's going wrong again, and his thinking was wrong. And I think his lawyers also did not really advise him correctly, because they have been all the time saying that this will open a Pandora box, and the Pandora box meant that it will also involve a lot of other military officers, and they would not like this thing to happen, and they will then bring pressure that this case should be put aside. But I don't think they have misjudged again on this issue, because the country is not prepared to accept anyone to be above the rule of law.
Well, Maktoum Baba, your view on that. How great a threat is this potential exposure or exposure to the public of military action in past years because of any potential prosecution of Musharraf himself?
Well, I'm not very positive about Musharraf being tried under the Treason Act, because already the government of Pakistan has been questioned by the Supreme Court. Did Musharraf indulge into treason or not? And so far there has been no clear answer to that question by the Supreme Court. I think in this treason case, it will be a symbolic case. It will be conveying a message to any future adventurers that if in future such thing is happen, it can take up to the high treason case or something like that. And I don't think that I believe that Mr. Musharraf has taken the decision of returning and facing the treason case, despite the fact that last year he was directed by the then ISI chief, a couple of years back, General Shuja Pasha, not to return to Pakistan. Similarly, the Saudi government asked former Prime Minister Mr. Nawaz Sharif not to go back to Pakistan until the pact period was over. Similarly, Musharraf was also advised, and if he has still come, I don't think he has come with a fear of being tried for treason, and he has come with sort of confidence that all the cases that have been established against him are of political nature, and he will get a clean sheet in those cases, as he must be believing that he was not involved at all in Benazir murder case or in Mr. Bugti case and other charges like that.
Well, a test of Pakistan's democracy indeed in the weeks and months ahead. My thanks to our guests, Zahid Ibrahim, Maktoum Baba and Talat Masood. And thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. If you want to send us your feedback, just email your thoughts to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. I'm Mike Hanna. Goodbye for now.